Welcome to yet another Isekai video. I am Caketinz and today I am going to be talking all about video game Isekai. So I feel video game Isekai can kind of be split into two types of Isekai. One where the character is completely, very literally, body and mind sent to another world, and also one where they are still on Earth, still in the real world, and instead the Isekai world is like the digital. They're in a game, they're playing a game, but they can come back and go between Earth and the game. I've seen some people argue that digital Isekai worlds don't count as Isekai. Those people are wrong. It's generally quite commonly accepted that digital worlds still also count as Isekai, so there are going to definitely be a few of those in this video. Just before we dive into it, don't forget to give this video a like, comment, and subscribe. Check out my social media and affiliate links found down below. Dudette's Discord server, woo! And also remember that I am giving away a volume from each of my Isekai videos, so stay tuned for which volume I give away for this one. So the first series I am going to talk about is Bofuri, I Don't Want to Get Hurt, so I'll max out my defense. So this is a sort of digital video game Isekai. This girl is encouraged by her friend to try out the new game, and it's wearing a headset, you get put in a game, sort of deal a Rooney, and basically she's like, I don't want to take damage, I don't want to get hurt because that'll hurt. So she puts all of her skill points into vitality, which ends up kind of making her a bit immune. Invincible, very strong. I currently have 5 volumes. I think volume 6 has come out, but I don't think I've received my volume yet. And so far I've only read the first 3 volumes. It has a super cute art style. I really like how adorable the characters are. I also love her like character outfit, so what we see of her on the front, that's what she wears in game with her massive shield. A VR MMO. Its sales are really taking off. It's called New World Online. So yeah, she goes when she's like making her character, she's like fixated on making as high a defense as possible. So she picks a class of weapons that mean high defense. She puts everything into vitality, and it just kind of makes her very OP. So what does it say? So when she gets into the game, we see her stats and her vitality is like crazy. And later on in the volume, there's this event that takes place, which kind of, I think it's like PvP sort of Rooney, and she kind of bosses it with her shield. She just completely wipes the floor and everyone kind of loses their shit. And there's kind of this forum happening, online forum on Earth, real world, where they're like, who is this girl? And I've just found it really, really nice to read. Towards the end of the volume, her friend actually starts playing with her again, and then they start doing some like quests together, and it's super, super cute and lovely. And it's kind of just like more characters do start to appear, and they kind of just have been adventuring around and doing quests and stuff. There hasn't been overly anything too high stakes as of what I've read to so far, but I do enjoy it. I do recommend it. It is published by Yen Press, as is the manga, and there is also a light novel which is published by Yenon, so both Yen Press but under the Yenon line. Once again, I think it's quite neat to compare covers between the manga and the light novel to see the difference, because definitely if you're buying online, it can be sometimes tricky to necessarily tell the difference between a series that has both a light novel and a manga, but you do kind of start to be able to tell the difference from a glance, just because there's different art styles usually, but you have to kind of just pick it up, I guess. I have started picking this up again. I can't remember if he's read any of it yet though. I think I've gotten for 6 light novels maybe. So far I have given Bofuri a 7.8 out of 10. Next up we have Kuma Bear. So this is an isekai where she is isekai'd into a video game like world, and she kind of is isekai'd with this bear suit. So our main character on Earth is kind of a bit of a video game addict. She like bit of a shut-in, doesn't go to school anymore, she just plays games. And one day she logs into her game and they're like, there's a new patch, there's some new quest DLC, something like that. Would you like to try it? She's like, well, yes. And then she's presented a room full of chests, and they're like, open a chest, and that is like item to go into the new quest world with. And she opens this chest, and inside is a bear suit. This massive, adorable bear suit with matching bear mittens. And she's like forced to equip it, and she's very confused. And then she's sent into this world, and it feels a little bit too real. And she ends up being super overpowered with the suit because, of course, like, there's different coloured bear gloves and each one does something a little bit different. And basically all of her attacks are bear themed, and she can do strange things that are bear themed, and it doesn't make sense, but it's so adorable and OP. There's like some gruesome fights. I say gruesome, they're not too bad, but in the context of what is otherwise quite a cutesy, adorable story, it can be a bit gory, but it is pretty darn adorable. But everything is bear themed. Everything is bear themed. But also, super importantly, her name is Yuna, and I named one of my cats after her. Basically, when we got our cats, me and Ben were like, let's name our cats after female isekai protagonists. And we had a whole list, and one of the ones we ended up going with was Yuna from this. Now, Ben likes to say it's also Yuna from, is it Final Fantasy X? It's not. No, ignore what he says. It's this Yuna. Isekai Yuna. Where is she, by the way? Maybe I can get her on camera. And here we have Yuna. Say hello, Yuna. She is a very big cat. Oh my gosh. Is she entirely in the shot? I'm not entirely sure. Yeah. So we have Yuna's namesake right here. She is basically a teddy bear, aren't you? Oh, thanks, Yuna. Kuma Bear also has a light novel, also published by Seven Seas, as you can see. A lot more cartoony on the manga version, also really quite thin, though some of them do get chunkier later on in the series. For this series, I have currently given it an 8.5 out of 10. Okay, next series we have is Formerly the Fallen Daughter of the Duke. Now, I have to be honest with you, this is probably not quite really properly a video game manga, but it is kinda, if you squint, it kind of is. But it is a series I wanted to talk a little bit about, and I felt like this was probably the most appropriate place to put it. I mean, I feel like it almost falls into the same vein of like a lot of the villainess manga is technically video game manga, because they're often isekai'd into otome games, which is what happens with this one. I suppose it is almost a villainess. I mean, the word villainess is used, but I don't... Okay, story. So our main character, Claire, was attending school, I think. I think she was formally engaged to a prince, probably. Again, yep, crown prince fiance. Suddenly, she is orchestrated. She has been accused of doing terrible things, and she basically is like, I need to escape, I need to leave. So she is in the role of the villainess from the game, and the person that's been accusing her of being and doing all these terrible things is her half-sister, the main character in the otome game. Now we know through like her version of events and what Claire is saying and hearing, seeing, her thoughts basically is that it's all completely untrue, it's completely made up and fabricated, not true in the slightest. And basically she runs off knowing that only bad things are going to happen, and ends up running into sort of a ragtag group of travellers from a faraway kingdom, and kind of, because she's kind of just run off. I think originally she was going to go and join a nunnery, which also seems remarkably common in villainous isekai. She ends up tagging along with this group and heading off to the kingdom that they're from to start a second life. And what I think is kind of interesting with this one is occasionally she doesn't know she's been isekai'd, or she isn't aware of a life other than her life as Claire, and on occasion she gets these like dreams / wakes up where she's back in her room in Japan with her friend, and they've been playing this game, New Start Heart Eternal Love. And she gets like key plot points for the story / Claire's life when she's back in Japan, but she's like not particularly aware or understanding what's happening. She's like, it's almost like she's half asleep still, and then she falls asleep again and she's Claire again, and Claire's like, that was a weird dream, but somehow I think I need to try and do these things to discover something. I found it neat. It's got like magic, it's got a bit of adventure, it's got a bit of a thrill, it's got heartwarming romance. So this series is published by Tokyo Pop, and currently there are 3 volumes available in English. Volume 2 and Volume 3. With Volume 4, I think, actually coming out in the next couple of months. Don't quote me on that though, I need to check, I can't remember. But I've liked this one, and I really am looking forward to Volume 1. Volume 4. I read 2 and 3 together, which I think really helped the story. So it's kind of a villainess, but kind of not, because she isn't really a villainess. I think there was another title in the villainess video I talked about that was kind of like that. And it just kind of had video game elements. So that's what I mean. It wasn't... I wanted to talk about it, and this is where it ended up. So if you're like, it doesn't fit the theme, I'm sorry. For this series, I have so far given it an average rating of 8 out of 10. Next series on the list is Alice in Bishonenland. Bishonen? Bishonenland? Bishonenland? I'm sorry. I kind of want to start with this series by saying I don't think it's good, but it's insane. And it's almost good because of how insane it is. Basically take a mobile gacha game with a theme of male idols, and that is this. That is what this is. So our main character is isekai'd into a mobile gacha game with male idols. She's isekai'd into the game, and she has to select her male idols. Basically a whole bunch of girls across Japan have been isekai'd into this game, and they all select male idols, and they have to form an idol group, and then they compete in this isekai world to battle for the top spot. And I think the top spot is the person that's able to leave. Oh, I can't remember exactly on that, but like, you want the top spot. The main character in this series isn't like necessarily completely willingly isekai'd. She kind of follows her friend who is really into these sort of games. She has no idea whatsoever. So when she's making her ragtag group of boy idols, she kind of picks a really weird selection. So I think it says on the back of the volume there, we have a 41-year-old baby-faced teacher, a giant half dog, dead and fairy-sized, so like 8 inches tall, if you can see all of those. Yeah, it's just really, really weird. It is complete at 2 volumes, so in terms of a short-running isekai, this is a good shout. There aren't many short-running isekai. As I said before, there aren't that many complete isekai. Like, forget trying to find short ones, there aren't many that are just complete. When I say it's a gacha isekai, I mean it. Like, gacha is involved in the story. So there is a point where she's told that like she needs to do her login and get her daily bonuses, and she needs to do things like exercise and like run on a treadmill so much to be able to improve the boys' stats. There is a legit gacha machine that she can roll, and she can earn coins and stuff by using real world money to be able to spin the machine. She gets different kinds of coins depending on how much she spends. You can convert money from your real life bank account into game coins. Teenage players might also take advantage of student loan styled loans. Yeah, just like real gacha. 1 gold coin costs $100, but it really, really, really does try and push the gacha. So yeah, in terms of like it being, I don't think it's good, but it's like almost so bad it's good. It's definitely one of the more different isekais that have stuck with me. It's just so weird. But also, again, as I've said, only 2 volumes, so yeah. But it's Tokyo Pop. Tokyo Pop tends to be a bit more pricey. Sometimes it might pop up secondhand though. So yeah, I'll be honest, my average rating for the series is 5.5 out of 10. It has a really weird ending as well. I mean, how could it not, being what it is? Next series is Shangri-La Frontier. So I actually did talk about this in my favourite reads of 2022. It was one of my favourite reads, new series reads of the year. It is another, not a full body isekai, he's playing a video game isekai. It's basically a guy loves playing shit games. boy do I relate. He loves playing trash games and beating the crap out of them. He really likes games with terrible bugs, and he loves to be able to manipulate the bugs to do crazy things in games, which is pretty neat. And we start at the beginning with him playing some awful games and enjoying some of the terrible bugs he's experienced, basically. And then when he's out picking out a new game to play, he kind of gets encouraged to play this new game, Shangri-La Frontier, or SLF for short. Now, SLF isn't a bad game. It's a really, really good game. It's a very brand new-ish, maybe, big, good game. And it's like his first time playing not something shit. But basically, he's adapted all of these, like, skills from playing bad games about balancing his skills, skipping dialogue and moving around, searching things, stuff like that. Because of his bad game skills, he actually becomes a really good... Because he's now playing a good game, he's not having to compensate for bad things. So because he's playing a good game and he's got good skills, it kind of amplified, and he's an insanely good player. He's managed to happen upon like some weird one-time events that's led him to get like a bonus minion thing, and people going crazy for it and like even trying to track him down and PK him to find out how he did it. So far, I have read 4 volumes. So far, there are 5 volumes out in English. I have read the first 4. I've not yet read my volume 5. It was in my basket though. Isekai month. I've really enjoyed it. It's just, I mean, it's a fun video game. Isekai, we've got lots of stats. We see stat menus all the time. We see maps and talking about quests and stuff. And that's just the sort of thing I love about Isekai. I love stills. I'm trying to say stats and skills. I love stats and skills. It is a guy, he's not a bird. He's wearing a mask, and when he starts the game, that's his, like, stats. When he starts, he doesn't wear anything but a staring bird mask. Because he decides to... Oh, that's it. If he didn't wear any other armor, instead the game would give him gold, money, whatever it is in the game. In a AAA game like this, playing half naked with no head protection might be tough. I guess the mask's the only... And then he wants one that covers his face, and the bird mask was the only one that did that. This is my only choice. It's not like I want to look like a sex offender. There is definitely some form of bigger story happening, but we've not really glimpsed too much of it yet, or at least what I've read. We've experienced the guy grouping up with some friends of his to try and complete some quests that are less commonly completed or not found too often by players, and they seem to be sort of feeding back into something to do with the game itself. Series like this always do that. It always goes back to some great plan by the game designer. I'm really looking forward to reading more of this. I do recommend it. And also, this is the volume that I'm giving away. Woohoo! So I will be giving away volume 1 of Shangri-La Frontier. To enter, of course, like the video, make sure you're subscribed to me, Caketinz, and also you need to comment down below. What do you need to comment down below? So just comment down below that you would be interested in playing Shangri-La Frontier or playing SLF. One or the other. I mean, SLF is a lot easier to type and less likely for typos, because I will be checking using a thing that checks your comments, so if you typoed it wrong you won't be entered. So SLF maybe. Playing SLF in some form or another in your message, comment and you are entered, and I will draw winners mid-July, along with the winners of all the other videos. I have currently rated this a 7.5 out of 10. Also, has an anime coming out this year apparently, but what Isekai doesn't? Our next series is Final Fantasy Lost Stranger. Now, quick background on my relationship with Final Fantasy. So before I met Ben, I pretty much didn't touch the series at all. I mean, growing up, we had Nintendo consoles, we had Xboxes, we never had PlayStations. We were not a PlayStation household. We had everything but basically PCs, Xboxes, Nintendos of all varieties, handhelds, but no PlayStations. So Final Fantasy was predominantly PlayStation, I believe, mostly. Yeah, right? Yeah. So it pretty much is just a series that passed me by growing up. And when I met Ben, Ben is like a proper Final Fantasy fanboy. He cannot tell me how many times he has played Final Fantasy VII, but he said it is definitely quite high double digits. I have watched him play some other ones. I've watched him play 8, I've watched him play 9. is going to tell me I'm wrong. I've not watched him play 7, but I watched him play 7 Remake. I've watched him play a chunk of 10, I've watched him play a chunk of 12. I think a lot of them, it's not overly my kind of thing. A lot of them have just seemed a bit too linear. However, he did suggest that I try playing Final Fantasy XIV, and I have been suckered in. I am obsessed with Final Fantasy XIV, so much so that I am going to FanFest 2023 in London, and I am so excited. I'm also going to the concert. Also very excited. I adore Final Fantasy XIV, so much so it is like my perfect video game ever. Nothing will de-rank or dethrone Wind Waker, but it is up there. It's definitely a top 5 game. I mean, until Tears of the Kingdom came out a few weeks ago, I have been quite aggressively playing it. I'm trying to grind a bunch of characters to 80 because I'm still a bit behind on the story and I need it all. I need to be completely up to date before I go to FanFest. Rant over. Right, so basically, Ben started collecting this. We hadn't played too much Final Fantasy XIV at this point at the beginning. I think, where had we gotten to? I think we'd gone like to the level 30 quests in the main story, which isn't really that far in, really. I think we've gotten to like Ifrit. So when I read this, like, I knew the basic terms. I mean, I've played a lot of JRPGs, just not really Final Fantasy. So like a lot of the terms, they do kind of mingle a bit, so it wasn't a complete, I didn't understand what was happening. So basically with this story, it starts off with 2 siblings, boy and a girl. They work together at Square Enix. Literally, they work at Square Enix. They have the dream to produce the guy has a dream to produce his very own Final Fantasy game with his sister. But after the siblings are involved in a truck accident, they awaken to realize they've left their world behind and fallen into the world of Final Fantasy. Now, when they fall into the world of Final Fantasy, this is not based on any Final Fantasy game. It's just kind of, think of it as its own Final Fantasy world. It's got like Moogles and Chocobo and stuff. I don't think they have the same names. I think everything might have slightly different names. So it has like the elements and stuff you know for Final Fantasy. It's just not set in any particular Final Fantasy world. So there isn't like any particular games you need to know to be able to read about it. So yeah, these siblings are isekai'd into a Final Fantasy world, and they obviously, they know kind of what's happening. Things have different names. They have to try and start to learn those, but they understand like classes and money and the races and stuff. So they are like absolutely batshit amazed, happy, wonderful. They can't believe what's happening, and they then join a party and they start doing adventuring stuff and being Final Fantasy adventurers and having a great time. Until, now this is a bit of a spoiler for the first volume, it happens at the end, but again, volume 1 in my opinion is per game, but if you do not want spoilers, skip along a little bit. So basically they're going adventuring and they find Big Boss. The sister dies. She is injured. She dies. And he's like, it's okay, we'll just cast Raise. To which the rest of the party go, what's Raise? So yes, it is a Final Fantasy world, but they don't have the Raise spell. The story pretty much is kind of the brother trying to find any existence of this Raise spell to be able to bring back his sister, is kind of where the story then leads into. But all in a Final Fantasy world, and it is laden with Final Fantasy references. So I know I said you didn't need to necessarily have played other games to understand it. You don't, but to pick up the references, maybe. Now I do think I'm potentially in a fortunate position that Final Fantasy XIV, even though I haven't played the others, I have watched Ben play some, but Final Fantasy XIV in itself has a lot of references to other Final Fantasy games. I know, because Ben keeps telling me. I mean, Ben was telling me, I was like, is there anything else you want me to shout out about the series before I record this? And he said that it's really neat that every chapter title in the series is actually the title of a song in the Final Fantasy series. And I was like, oh my god, I am obsessed with the 14 soundtrack. I literally have to play it at night to be able to fall asleep. How many of these do I recognise? I recognise more than I thought. I was pretty pleased. However, a lot of the songs from 14 are using the dungeon themes. Like, I think there was one that was like The Thousand Moors of Totorak. And generally I listen to not the dungeon themes to fall asleep to. I listen to like overworld music, especially in the nighttime music. Like Shadowbringers Hub World Nighttime. Knowledge never sleeps. Oh my gosh. And if you still don't know the references, it's okay, because at the back of every volume, they actually walk you through every reference in the volume, where it's from, which Final Fantasy. So like, what have we got? I mean, the very first chapter is called Prelude Rebirth, which is the name of a song from the Realm Reborn soundtrack. Ronso and Viera are the names of races from Final Fantasy X and Final Fantasy XII, respectively. I mean, there was even a reference to, in one of these volumes, there was a reference to the Waking Sands, and in the translation notes it said, players may be familiar with the phrase, "Pray return to the Waking Sands," and it was like flashback, flashback. Currently, there are 8 volumes of the series out at the moment. It doesn't release overly fast. I want to say every year, or just under every year, we get a volume. Ben is always very excited when they come out, and I'm like, don't worry, I've pre-ordered it. You don't need to worry. And he's like, okay, but has it shipped? Has it shipped? Has it shipped? I'm like, oh my god. I definitely think I need to read more of this now that I've played more 14, especially looking through the translation notes. So many references to 14 apparently, and Ben's like, yeah, there is a lot of references to 14. I'm like, okay, but we need to finish Shadowbringers. We're like one quest off finishing Shadowbringers, then I'll read them. Currently, I have rated this series an 8 out of 10. Final series I want to talk about today is a little bit of a doozy. Let me try and pick up the pile. We have Sword Art Online. Can I even fit them all in shot? I can't tell. We have Sword Art Online. Now, the Sword Art Online manga is a little strange. There isn't a straight route to reading them all out. There is a lot of subtitles for each of the arcs in the series, and there is also progressive. Let me put this down, and I'm going to try and walk you through what there is. So I am using the Wikipedia article for this because there is a lot, and I need help with the order. So first off, we have Sword Art Online Aincrad. Now this is a omnibus, I want to say. So I think there were 2 volumes of this, and Young Press printed it in one. It is chunky. This is the OG Sword Art Online arc. It is such a good arc. Then we have Fairy Dance, which is complete in 3 volumes. Then we have Phantom Bullet, which is 4 volumes long, but I don't have any of those volumes yet. Then we have Caliber, which is a one-shot volume. Then we have Mother's Rosary, which is 3 volumes, but I only have volume 1. I'm also going to skip any that say they don't have an English release, by the way. Then we have Project Alkalization, which is 5 volumes, and I don't have any of those yet. I think that one's quite new. I think they finished releasing last year sometime. Then we have Girls Ops, which is 8 volumes, and I have volumes 1, 2, and 8. Then we have Progressive, which you need to bear with me just for a moment. So we have just Sword Art Online Progressive, which is 1 to 7, and that is complete. Then we have Barcarolle of Froth, which is 2 volumes, which I don't have. Then Scherzo of the Deep Night, which is 3 volumes, which I also don't have. And Canon of the Golden Rule, which is 2 volumes, and again, I don't have. Actually, looking at this list, not all of those have finished releasing. Canon of the Golden Rule isn't out, or doesn't have English release dates yet, and Scherzo of the Deep Night 3 isn't out until later in the year. There's also Alternate Gun Gale Online, which is 4 volumes, and I don't have those. And Hollow Realization, which is 6 volumes, and I have 4 and 5. And there is, I think, another 11 or 12 side spin-off stories that I haven't got an English release yet, but they still exist. The reason I'm missing so many is I primarily try and pick these up secondhand if and when I see them. I mean, there's so many. I mean, how many did I go through there? A lot. And it's just a lot. And they do often pop up secondhand, so I don't mind too much. I think pretty much all of these, apart from Progressive, I picked up secondhand. The one I have read in its entirety is Sword Art Online Progressive. Now do bear with me, because I read it about 5 years ago. So this is kind of like a retelling of the Aincrad arc at the beginning between Kirito and Asuna. Different things kind of happen. I think it's meant to be like a retelling. I say that having read it. I think it's a retelling over not a different play of events. That's how I took it to be. As someone who did really enjoy the Aincrad arc, I did enjoy reading a different version of it. The characters are a bit different. How to say it? There's a lot of feet shots of Asuna, and there's some very strange comments about the manga art from the manga artist about Asuna's feet in the back of 1 or 2 of the volumes, which I remember reading and thinking something about her sweaty toes. very strange to read. If you are a fan of the series and want to try a different retelling, I would recommend it. I don't think it's as good as, say, the original story firsthand, but it was still neat to read. Different things happen. They end up partaking in this like elf civil war, which was quite neat to read about. It definitely also ended quite abruptly from what I read. Yeah, I just wanted to quickly check release dates because I did think at the time when I finished volume 7 of this, it was so abrupt and it kind of just sort of, the arc ended and then the next page was like, and Kirito and Asuna had a great time, they lived happily ever after, that sort of deal, Rooney, and it was like, what? Why did you do this? And yet, it actually looks like when I finished 7, I finished it just as 7 came out, and 2 years later, it looks like they've brought out more progressive stories, so those ones I was saying earlier, and I just haven't gone back into them yet. So I do hope that it makes the story not feel too abrupt an ending. I hope it kind of carries it on. I don't know, but I really do want to try and pick those up because I really did enjoy reading progressive at the time. I remember reading it like on my lunch breaks when I still went into the office all those years ago. Overall, I have given this series a 7 out of 10. Also, before I forget, the light novels for Sword Art Online, so I've been buying these all pretty much secondhand or on sale for Ben. So Sword Art Online, the main series light novel, that's what that looks like. And I think it's on like 26 or something in English at least. Really quite a long running light novel. And then also, now he doesn't have the first couple volumes yet, but Sword Art Online Progressive is also a light novel. And the first earliest volume we have is volume 3. And look, I got it 50% off. Ooh. So that's what the covers for the light novels look like. There we have it. 7 video game isekai, mostly-ish, for you to try and sink your teeth into. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it informative. Don't forget, if you're interested in entering the giveaway, say whatever I said you should say and I'll put text on the screen. I can't remember. But it is for this volume. Do let me know in the comments what you thought, and if you end up trying any of these, I would love to hear which ones and why and your thoughts. Remember to like the video and subscribe for so much more manga content, and check out members if you're interested in early access to all my videos. Otherwise, I hope you have a most wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Bye!